makers and to allow them to ask questions and provide comments. No decisions or recommendations on the proposed development will be made by this committee. Any proposals for development you hear or see today are in a very early conceptual stage of planning without the city's departments of planning and public works having had the opportunity to review them. Accordingly, discussion of specific details on any proposed development at this time is premature, as they are subject to change prior to formal submission process. In light of the informal and preliminary nature of the presentation today, the public has been invited to attend via the Zoom webinar platform or streaming live on YouTube and learn about concepts associated with the proposed development in your city, but public comment will not be offered at this time. Any person interested in commenting on the proposal discussed today is encouraged to contact their elected representatives and also take advantage of the numerous opportunities to speak before the Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council when and if such occurs, the development is formally submitted for the city's consideration. Okay, I guess, Mr. Vunich, do you have any opening comments?
Mr. Chair, sorry to interrupt. Can we just do a quick roll call vote?
Roll
call of committee? No problem. Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Brost.
Here.
Mayor Boland.
Here.
And Chair Beatty, not here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So is this, Mr. Vunich, are you kicking it off?
Yes, sir, and thank you. Again, to the members of the Development and Zoning Review Committee, thank you for being here tonight. We've called upon you many times over the last few months, so thanks. We appreciate it very much, your flexibility and attendance. As always, the department has prepared for consideration tonight a packet of information, some of which has been provided by the applicant, Mr. Ewell, and the other portion of it by the Department of Planning and the Department of Public Works. That packet includes the agenda, obviously, and then the bylaws, if there are any questions about the process. And then the department has also provided several aerial photographs of the site and the vicinity around the site to help orientate the committee members to it. Along with that information, the department has provided the regulating plan, which designates the district, workplace, and then information relating to allowable uses, and then more and equally important, the design standards and architectural guidelines for the particular district, and that's in table form along with all the other districts. I would just note that the city of Wildwood rezoned this property back in 1998. At the time of the rezoning, there was a specific user, and that was Phillips 66 for the convenience store with gas pumps and a car wash. Along with that specific user, there was a parcel of ground that came with the property, so to speak, but there was no specific user, but the developer at the time hoped that it could be used for a restaurant, a sit-down restaurant. And so the governing ordinance identifies the convenience store and the sit-down restaurant as the two allowable uses on the site. The site, as will be described by the applicant tonight, has a pump station placed on it. At the time of the rezoning, there was no sanitary sewer service to it. And so for a while, there was an on-site treatment facility. And then ultimately, through the efforts of the city of Wildwood, public sewers were extended. So that's the main feature on the site at this time, probably from the perspective of the department. Tonight, you'll be hearing from the applicant who has a proposal. The applicant has provided a comprehensive set of information for your consideration. And if there are any questions of the department regarding the rezoning process back in 1998 or any of the information provided by it for tonight's discussion, the department would be glad to respond to them at this time. Thank you. Mr. Brost, you're on mute. Sorry.
All right. Well, thank you. I guess the petitioner then have comments, I guess, to go through the slides.
Yes, sir. So Mr. Yule, if you'd like to share screen, or if Travis, you're doing it for him, we can probably put up some of the images and then have him describe them.
I can do the share screen.
Thanks, Travis.
All right, should I go? All
You're
right,
good to go. I can hear you.
all right, good. Thank you everyone for having this meeting and taking some time out of your I'm sure busy schedules. As Joe had mentioned, we were looking at this property at 17109 Hawthorne Parkway, and we can. Do I ask you to change the slide, Travis? So a little bit of an overview from what I know, and I'm sure Joe could provide more clarification. We were seeking to sort of develop a single tenant storage facility on the property. It's been vacant for a very long time. I think that 1998 was the date that was mentioned earlier. There may have been some other interest between then and now, but it's been quite a while from what I understand. Potentially the last known proposal was for an office building, maybe after the restaurant, and that may have been about 15 years ago. I think maybe part of the reason that there hasn't been a lot of interest in this property in the past, there are no utilities. Well, there is electric, but there's no water, there's no gas utility on the property. Joe mentioned there's a sewage pump station, which also has an adjacent overflow area that if that pump station were to fail, and there's just a general kind of lack of visibility of the parcel from the surrounding roadways and properties and everything. Joe already mentioned zoned as workplace, and from what I understand, that allows several commercial land uses, including the office and warehouse and parking, etc. And just a brief statement, but there really would not be any customers or public access to this facility. It would be a private storage facility for a single tenant. So we can advance, I guess. Again, it's well hidden from view. It's surrounded by trees on all four sides. It's a lower grade below the highways, 109 and 100. It's a lower grade than the gas station that Joe mentioned as well. So it makes it not very visible, especially the site portion of the parcel where we would like to construct the building. We can go ahead and advance. So here's the Google map view, I guess. As you can see, I'm sure you're all familiar with the area. The Phillips 66 is right there, and that the property is located behind it, and again at a lower grade. And that access road is, reaches around to the pump station in the far on the west side there. You can advance. So here's some views from the property itself. As you can see, this is looking north. So there's a big, large stand of trees between the building site and the highway, which is actually the off-ramp of the highway. Again, it's pretty elevated and behind quite a bit of vegetation there. So it's not very visible. This is the view looking west. I believe that's a vacant piece of land to the west that's also heavily wooded. You can advance. The south view, Bottom Creek runs through there. So you're seeing the trees. Then it would go down a hill from there to Bottom Creek, and then back up a hill to another, I guess, larger parcel that's been undeveloped at this time. And this is the view looking east. The roof there is the gas station. The grassy area is the proposed building site. One more view. This is from Hawthorne Village Parkway as you're pulling into the gas station. I'm sure you've all been there. And the access road is behind that retaining wall, sort of in the middle of the screen, and turns to the right. And the proposed building location is again hidden from view from anybody using the gas station. This is the sewage pump facility that Joe had mentioned. The concrete pad, I believe, is kind of where the equipment is, and I believe there's a storage tank under there that gets pumped up a hill. The big sort of, I guess, trapezoidal or whatever you would call that area is it's a retaining wall, and I believe that's the overflow protection area. If the pumps were to fail, that would probably begin to fill up until they could get it repaired. So here's our general site plan proposal, I guess, and it's for a 5,000 square foot warehouse, which is basically 50 by 100 feet. Sort of using some of the other areas as a parking area to just for vehicles, not a big messy yard of any means, but just you know, vehicles or trailers might be parked there. There's a small area sort of in the middle, like lower side, where I have it designated as maybe potential bulk material storage. And that would be repurposing a lot of those large concrete blocks that surround the roadway. I assume those were probably put there at some point so that people would not access the property, dump debris, or do, you know, just trespass, I guess, in general. So there's a lot of those blocks, and we were just going to repurpose those into some storage bins for some materials, bulk materials. I put the land disturbance on there because it is, you know, not a very big land disturbance. I don't think it requires any extra permitting from the county, but it's about 16,500 square feet. It's very flat parcel, so very little, if any, grading would be needed, as well as we do not intend to disturb any of the trees unless they're right where the building site is. But again, that's, as you saw from the photos, that's primarily grass with a few wild trees here and there, but all the perimeter trees on all four sides would remain in place. And then we had talked about potentially, you know, having a future expansion at some point. That's not necessarily the purpose of this meeting tonight. But that could be, you know, take the form of a salt storage building, a small office, maybe some caretaker's quarters. There's just some extra area over there that could be developed a little bit further in the future, but that would probably require a separate meeting, I would assume, a separate process to expand. We are not proposing that at this time. Just wanted to put it on the record, I guess. This is the just kind of a wireframe of the building. The bay doors that you see there would be facing west, so you really wouldn't have any chance of seeing them. They'd be facing that parking area as well, and the back side would, with the small windows that are higher up, would be the side facing east. There would be one bay door on that side to give like a pull through area for the building. And here's an example of a similar structure. Obviously, its doors are in different places and things, and colors can be whatever they need to be to align with regulations and things. You can go one more slide. So a little bit closer view. Again, very similar concept, and this is from the same manufacturer as well. And here's sort of the interior structure. It's what they call like an I-beam building structure. Very strong. Comes with maybe a 75-year structural warranty, as well as probably I think 40 or 50 years on the roof and siding and everything. So I think that's the last. That's the last slide. So I'm available for any questions at this point or discussion.
Let's see, any questions from anyone? Councilmember Clark?
Thanks, Chair Bros. Yeah, I had a couple of questions, maybe for the department about the, it being so close to Bonham Creek and how this is going to affect it. That would be one of my questions. Another one is if we get some, another developer at 2431, that big parcel of ground, will that not be visible to everyone that's in that location?
To answer your first question regarding Bonham Creek, and Mr. Brown may want to add as well. In the grading code, the minimum setback from top of bank is 50 feet. And so no disturbance is allowed there. And if there's any floodplain, which I don't believe there is associated with the property, then obviously there's a protection as well. This property would have to, the existing site-specific ordinance would have to be amended to accommodate a use like this. So the Planning and Zoning Commission can recommend, and the City Council can concur or change a greater setback if the city chooses, meaning we can take that 50 feet and make it 100 or whatever distance that would, in the opinion of the department, satisfy the Department of Public Works and City Council in terms of safety. The property to the south is the reserve at Wildwood, the Payne Family Homes, Fisher Homes proposal. And as you know, they were doing substantial alterations to the site. And so at this stage, I'm not sure if it would be visible or not, given all the changes that were proposed as part of that 132 single family development. But obviously, we would take that into account if this were to move forward. We could ask for cross sections to take what's proposed by Fisher Homes and compare it to this.
Okay. Mayor Boland?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So a couple of things. First of all, I want to thank you for your interest in our city. Second, good and bad. So the good part is your presentation was one of the most succinct and well done I think I've seen in quite some time. So that's the good news. The bad news is I just don't think I could get behind this particular type of structure / business at that place in our city at this point in time, because of the things that are, I think, still up in the air with respect to the nearby residential development, and just other aspects of this. And I could go into greater detail, but that's just my initial reaction to it.
Okay, thank you. I guess I'm probably pretty much with what the mayor's comments were. With respect to the outdoor gravel area, are there any specific plans or a type of business that's envisioned to be on the property? Mr. Ewell?
Yeah, we would have a landscaping business on the property, landscape maintenance company, and that would be the equipment for that business would be stored inside the building with the exception of trucks and trailers, which would be parked outside.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councilmember Clark?
Excuse me. Thank you. Yes, my hand down. So I'm having just a little bit of trouble with it myself, and I also thank you so much, Mr. Ewell, for coming and giving us the presentation. And I too thought it was a very good presentation, but yeah, that just some things we've dealt with recently with trucks and different equipment sitting out and having a lot of residents being upset by it. Of course, it was more visible, but this is our town center area. And, you know, I think about all of the fuel and all of the chemicals that might be displaced into the ground, and that close to the creek gives me some concern.
Well, I mean, I guess my response would be, you know, our fuel would probably come from the gas station directly into the equipment at that location. You know, I don't see there being a lot of chemicals just that could create a problem. We're very careful with that stuff and you know, minimize our use of it as well. Also, just I think I could provide, and I think I've shown Joe some photos before, but currently we're in a Chesterfield location, and it's an industrial location, but it's you know, shared with other businesses and things. So I could kind of provide some photos of how we live there, because we're not making a mess. We don't have old broken down equipment. We're not storing all kinds of things. It's just literally some pickup trucks and that are in very good condition, as well as a few trailers. So I would be happy to provide that. Well,
Yeah, I think that would be good. If it's okay to provide even the address, I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind going by.
sure.
I don't think you're getting a real positive feedback. But I think through Mr. Vunich that maybe in the coming weeks he could provide more feedback after we perhaps learn more. But it's just one that, you know, that I think at least the people in the city, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think like all projects, we have to be concerned. And this one would require, as I understand it, a variance from the existing zoning for the property. But Mr. Vunich can comment on that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, but yes, there's a site-specific ordinance, so that would have to be amended to accommodate this. And just from the department's perspective, and this is something I've talked with Mr. Ewell about, is this borders more on an industrial use than a commercial use, particularly with the outdoor storage of contractors, vehicles and equipment, and then certainly the bulk storage of materials. Again, it's a very fine line, and I've explained that to him, but I also encouraged him to come to the Development and Zoning Review Committee so he could hear from the decision makers themselves. Thank you.
Just a couple of things. The bulk material storage is not something that's necessarily needed. It was just a way to repurpose a lot of large concrete blocks that were there. And, you know, I'd be open to not necessary, not having that or limiting what could be in there, like hardwood mulch or something, which may be totally fine. Also, Travis, if I were to send you a quick email, would you be able to share a couple images?
Yes.
Okay. So that's on its way and it should be there any second. I do understand reservations with the type of business, but I want you to understand also that we're a little bit different.
Travis, have you received it yet? And Mr. Chair, Ms. Clark has her hand raised again.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Clark?
Thank you. Just another quick question. What about that access road? Is that gonna be like a developed road? And is that like gonna be your road? How does that work?
Well, I mean, I've discussed it with Joe briefly. We're under the impression that we could use that access road, that it's on I guess an easement probably for the property to get back to the pump location. So our intent was to use it as an entry and exit road.
So who maintains?
Ms. Clark, at this, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Please, no, you're the applicant.
No, I was gonna ask you, but I assume it's the MSD or something. So
And Ms. Clark, that's what I believe, given the pump station needs to be maintained and visits from MSD personnel, they have, for the most part, I believe, maintained it over the course of time. Thank you.
so just to share this is just our trailers parked mostly for the winter, and there should be another photo with most of our trucks. Again, that's it. That's all that we have outside. So I don't want anyone to be concerned that we would be a messy business.
All right, well, thanks for sharing those. Yeah, I don't know, this was a sort of a difficult one. You seem like be a great addition for our city. But I'm not sure that's the right spot, but I think that's my feedback. But I always look for a solution at the same time. So, but I would say that it'd probably be a good situation to maybe get more information and more feedback from from Joe Vunich and his department. And would there be is there an informal follow-up to this meeting, Mr. Vunich, as to our position, or is it based on a formal submission and then a response?
Well, from the perspective of the committee, you can have additional discussions on proposals submitted to you. Originally, there was only the allowance for one meeting under the bylaws. So in instances where there have been requests for further information, you've allowed the meeting to be not closed, but to be held open until that information is submitted. I do want to draw attention to a couple of other things. First, in town center and within any commercial district, we do not allow gravel parking lots. They have to be paved, either cement or some type of asphalt. Metal buildings are not anticipated by the architectural guidelines in town center. And then from that perspective, I mentioned the outdoor storage is a key component as well. So just so Mr. Yule knows all of the components, if there's something else that can be submitted that would address those concerns and the ones voiced by the committee members, it may be certainly worthwhile to have an additional discussion. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I guess if I was in your shoes, I would say that's a pretty steep hill to climb. And it also would affect your cost of operating, your business. But if that's something that you want to assemble that information and respond, the flip side is, and again, this is just me talking, the property's hasn't been any interest in years. So that's the flip side, but we have to coordinate whatever happens on that property with the requirements of town center, which is, very important part of our city. So, I guess if there aren't any other questions or comments, then maybe a motion to close the meeting.
I'd like to make one request, and that is, if somebody could point me, maybe Joe, to some of those, about gravel lots or metal buildings, or I don't know if there's something in the code somewhere, like some sections I should look at.
And I guess, Travis, when we spoke earlier today, you had mentioned some other examples of storage within Wildwood.
Mr. Bruce, I think I was probably thinking the industrial area, or speaking to the industrial area of the city up in the Chesterfield Valley.
Okay, all right, so that's not really, okay. All right, no, I think everyone, wants to try to work towards something, but we have to be very careful on staying within, what the city has assembled for its zoning. So, Mr. Vunich, are you agreeable to that?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'll provide the citations from code and the information from the town center plan so Mr. Yule can review it.
Okay. So if we close it, it's not to prohibit another meeting at a later date if that is desired?
That is my recollection. And Mr. Mayor, you're the expert on the kind of the rules. So if we just close the meeting, there is the option to have a second discussion.
Yes, if there's sentiment on the part of the group for that. I'm not interested in that. I think it would frankly potentially be wasting Mr. Yule's time. But certainly if the rest of the group wants to do it, we could do it. So.
Well, thank you for the clarification on the process. I appreciate it.
So it's not looking very fruitful for another meeting, but it's not. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say I'll review what Mr. Vunich has, and I guess we can have a discussion at that point to see if there's anything else to do.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I guess with that, if there's nothing else, a motion to adjourn the meeting. Motion by Councilmember Clark.
Second.
Second by Mayor Boland. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay. All right. Well, that's it. Well, thank you, sir.
Right.
Thank you.